But I think more than anything, the reason why I grew so fast and I am where I'm at today is action. Read a lot of books, do a lot of things. And I've read a lot of books that say, hey, reading is great, but it's the action that actually moves the needle.
Welcome to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the seven-figure journey. My name is David Gilliland, one of your hosts here with Elite Entrepreneurs. So excited to have Jason Smith with Spotlight Social on the call with us today. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, David. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
No, absolutely delighted. Again, it's just so fun to dive into and find out, why did people start their business? And then all of us have our crazy stories, but also, what have we learned on the journey? And so, Jason, why don't you just give us a little overview here, real briefly? What is it you're really great at in your business, right? Like, why did you start? Where's your target? And then let's learn some life lessons from you.
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess I'll get into a little bit about myself and kind of how I came to start the agency, if that's okay. I was actually a policeman in Los Angeles for 14 years before I started the agency. And I just got tired of I worked all the really bad neighborhoods of Los Angeles, was a gang cop for many, many years, did it all, narcotics, did everything. I just got tired of, just the day-to-day being a number, getting treated like crap every day. I was involved in multiple shootings and things like that as well. And it just, man, I was just sick of seeing dead bodies every night and chasing gang members. And it was fun for a while. And then I got an opportunity to check out some Facebook ads early on, around 2014-ish. And figured out that it was pretty cool, and I had a knack for it, and I had no clue I had a knack for it. I was just a dumb cop, running the streets of LA. And it turns out that I kind of dove into it, and Facebook ads or starting an agency was totally foreign to me, and went to a really high level training for 6 days. I actually had to pull money out of my retirement to be able to afford it, because I couldn't afford the training. But I saw the potential there. And make a long story short, a few months later, I was making more money as an agency owner than I was as a cop. And about 6 months into my journey, I was making quite a bit. Walked into the police department and threw down my resignation. Everybody thought I was crazy. Everybody's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're leaving a good job, good benefits, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I'm just tired of it. So I left, and that's how I'm at where I'm at now. So kind of crazy.
I've talked with a lot of people, and this is the first time I talked with someone who said, I just was tired of seeing dead bodies every night. It was fun at first, but it kind of wears on you. Yeah. I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah. And it's true, per capita, Los Angeles has more homicides and more gang members, than any other place in the country. The average policeman makes more felony arrests in Los Angeles than even New York, on a nightly basis. So it's it's a tough life. I'm divorced. It takes a toll on your personal life. I was always either working or in court. I was also a gang expert, a weapons expert. So I was testifying in all these cases and, doing all this stuff. Never was at home. I literally lived at the police station. And I just got to the point where I'm like, man, I can't go to my kids' soccer games. I can't do anything with my kids. I can't even go on vacation, and it just became cumbersome, and I was just done with it. And most policemen think they're stuck in that world, right? And that's why people thought I was crazy to leave, because most policemen, you're there for 30 years and then you have a heart attack after because of all the stress for so many years. And it's just, and the retirement's not that good. People think it is, and it's probably just a justification. But if any policemen are listening to this, you're not stuck in your job, that's for sure. So, but
all right. Well, thanks again for sharing with us a little. And I mean, you dove into this. You dove in fairly quickly. You built your side gig until it could replace, and then jumped off. Um,
Yeah.
and you've grown it. You passed your
Hmm.
$1 million mark a few years back, and you continue to grow. What are
Yeah.
some of the things that have really helped you in in building the team, in building that business and the stability? How have you done it? Share with us a little nugget here and there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I know I say I wasn't happy at the police department, but it did teach me a lot of really good skills. The number one, the skill is to be able to work with a variety of different personalities and people. I mean, LAPD has around 10,000 officers, and so that taught me to be kind of well rounded, deal with certain personalities and certain people. So it taught me that. But I think more than anything, honestly, it's about taking action, right? Like, you know, I could have gone to this training and came home and just not put it to use and, oh, I'm just, a cop and, this and that. But I think more than anything, the reason why I grew so fast and I am where I'm at today is action. I think, read a lot of books, do a lot of things. And I've read a lot of books that say, hey, I mean, reading is great, but it's the action that actually moves the needle. And that's one thing I'm pretty good at is taking action. I don't need to know exactly every single little nuance of the detail, right? I'll learn it as I go, and that's what I did when I started the agency. I mean, I learned. I was up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning sometimes working, right? Like learning this stuff and really applying everything. So for me, I think action is a huge one. Dealing with different personalities and I don't think this is talked about a lot, but just being like a nice, genuine person,
Yeah,
and yes, you can do all these cool things to build a team and all this stuff, but if your people aren't connected to you, then they're not going to move the needle for you. They're not going to be there on the days where you're like, hey guys, we just lost 5 clients. I may be a little bit late on paying you. Yeah, and they stick with you because of who you are, what you stand for, and how you treat them. And
yeah,
so I think that's probably the biggest thing I've learned over the years.
yeah. And I mean, let's play with that just a little bit. This isn't just because you're that kind of person, although you are.
Yeah.
Like, what has that paid off for you?
Well, man, I mean, uh, I take my kids to school every day. I'm home all the time, which I never was before. And I get very emotional about that because I could never do that before. I was never there for my family and my kids.
Yeah,
That's my payday, right? Is being able to get up, wake my kids up. My son's in high school. My daughter's in 7th grade now. But it's amazing, how much more connection I have with my kids and my family, and my wife. I'm not stressed out all the time. So for me, this is done not only on the financial side, because yes, I make a decent living and I don't have to worry about money as much anymore like I did as a policeman. But um, I mean, for me, it's that, right? And it's rewarded me with great friendships, great people that work for me, that I truly cherish, and I would do anything for them.
yeah,
So
yeah. They feel your loyalty. They feel your care, and
yeah,
and because of that, they can run things. Like,
exactly.
you don't have to. I know so many business owners that have 10, 15 employees. So I'm going to say on this small end of the million,
Sure.
um, 10, 15 employees who are stressed, who are never home, who are beating
Yes.
their heads against a wall, who are answering everyone's questions all the time because, quite frankly, they haven't built their teams the way they
Yeah.
needed to.
Yeah.
Um, and, and their team hasn't been willing to step it up anymore either. Because, I think it was Theodore Roosevelt said, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And
Exactly.
and I think there's a piece of that, like, nobody gives a hoot about what you think is important
Right.
until they
Yeah.
think until they know you think they're important.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I
Then they
still
care about what you
struggle
care
with
about.
with with team stuff, right? And
Yeah,
I still struggle hiring the right people, and I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I probably should have been like, man, maybe I should have saw that in the interview process, or
yeah,
so
yeah,
I still struggle with a lot of that. I'm not I'm not the best administrator either, administratively. Uh, like I said, I'm more of an action taker, and but but yeah, my people definitely know I care for them. I have their back, and the first thing I'll do is get all over a client that treats them badly,
Yeah.
and if it's not if it's warranted, that's one thing. But if it's not warranted and they just want to be jerks, as you know, there's a lot of people that are just jerks to be jerks, and I will get them on the phone, like that. And most of them don't know my background either, so it's like, come on, man, like don't try to act all tough, like don't come at me like that, because I tell you what, if we were sitting across from each other at a table, you would not be talking like this, So it's kind of funny how that works as well. But
Nothing like getting an LA beat cop to
yeah, exactly right. Hey,
to
that's
lay
still
into
in
you.
me, It's still in me to my detriment sometimes as well,
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
so I got to learn to control that sometimes, but
Well, I thought some great nuggets to begin with. So first, action,
yeah,
especially in this phase, like get clear about what you want to do, but go, go, go. It's
yes,
better to run and execute on B level plans than
yep,
to perfect A level plans that sit on the shelf, right? So,
exactly,
so like get it moving. Let's test it. Let's move. Let's help
yep,
our teams do the same. Let them take that risk. Let them
mm-hmm,
invest and try. And then
yep,
the second one to really, even though you're so action oriented, to care deeply about the team, to have their back.
yep.
That matters because there are times there every day we need them.
This is true. Yeah, I couldn't
Right?
do it without them.
Yeah, one day with them out kills our day and so much more. It's
Exactly.
just like we need them,
Yeah.
and hopefully they know it and feel the appreciation. So thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, you hinted at some things you're still working on, meaning you grew to this level. You've succeeded to this point. You have rightfully earned the next challenge.
Yeah,
that's,
exactly.
that's what that is. So what are the challenges you're facing right now? Maybe we can be of help on while we're on the call today.
Yeah. I mean, I think my biggest challenges for me is I still work pretty long hours. Of course, I have flexibility, but I still like the work. And so I find myself sometimes, not letting my team fully do things.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
this is my baby, right? Like, and I think I had a mentor a few years ago that says, Jason, 80% of you is enough, right? Like, if they can do you 80% of the time and 80%, like, just let them do it, And it's not that I'm a micromanager, because I'm definitely not, but it's hard for me to kind of let go sometimes, and
yeah.
have confidence that my team will speak to a client a certain way, or whatever. So I think that's one of the things I struggle with. And hiring is a big struggle for me. Again, I kind of like, oh, you have all this cool experience. Okay, great. Instead of going into personality traits, and I
Yeah,
read a book
yeah,
a couple years ago, and they said that if a hire doesn't if a hire doesn't have the same, like, morals and things that you have, you will fire them eventually. And
yep.
that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I still struggle with that, though. I really want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm very calloused and from being at the police department, but I really am trying to open up to that. So to my detriment, sometimes I hire the wrong person, or I spend a lot of time on somebody. So that's definitely the two things I probably struggle with the most.
Great. And let's talk about what's that's really worth to you.
Mm-hmm.
What does it cost you, really, to not let go?
Nothing.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
In
I
the
mean,
in
nothing.
the in the here and now, it costs you nothing. I
Yeah,
don't let go. I get to do the things I like. Things are great. They're grand.
right.
Um, Today's business is not affected. But let's talk about tomorrow's business. I'm assuming you've got some goals to grow this. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So if your team feels like, hey, Jason jumps in to fix stuff, to do things, he loves to hold on to certain areas, and they're faced with decisions that need to be made today, but are sort of in the wheelhouse that you like to do. And
Yeah.
now your team is 20 people, 30 people, 50 people. What's it look like in your day to day?
Oh my gosh, there's no way you could keep up with that.
You just can't.
No.
It buries you.
Yeah,
There's this
exactly.
there's this story, a story in the Bible of a guy named Moses. Moses
Yep.
is sitting there, and there's this group, a line of people from sun up to sundown, asking him questions, and that's what it looks like. So
Yeah,
there was
exactly.
this wise consultant. It was his father-in-law. His name's Jethro, and he's like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
You have got to stop this, right?" And
Yeah.
right away, he starts to build a team that can answer the questions and help people self-govern more, because you just can't as the
Right.
numbers grow. You can manage it at 10 to 15. It's stretching at 15, I'll be honest.
Sure.
10 to 15, you can manage it. But if you want to be more than that, it will slow everyone else down. So if you try to grow to 20, you'll start to get 60 and 50% of your team's efforts every
Mm,
day because you're a roadblock.
right. Right.
Okay. Your
Yeah.
customer response time will drop because you're a roadblock.
Yes, they
Even
can't just
paying your
freely respond.
That's right. Even
Yep.
paying your bills or collecting on accounts will slow down because you're a roadblock in every piece.
Yeah.
And so no, you don't have to. Any listeners who have between like 7 and 12 people, you can choose to stay there. But it's like you've maxed out that gear on your bike. You're
Yeah.
pedaling. You're at the top. You try to go faster. You pedal hard, but you're not really going that much. And people who have shifted gears are just zooming past.
Sure.
So that's the key. Is it doesn't affect you today. In fact, kind of slows you down
Slows you down. Yeah, for
to
sure.
build them today, but it'll slow you down a ton if you don't build them for tomorrow and let go of some things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one additional thing that I struggle with too is I love doing sales. Like I love
Yeah.
closing deals. So I'm like, I don't need a sales guy, right? But then I think about it and I'm like, man, maybe I should hire a salesperson. But then I'm like, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, you know? And
Yeah.
it's like it's not even the thing of relinquishing that role. It's more just I like it. I like
No, the
to be
dopamine hit. I mean, it's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Mhm.
closing a deal. So
Yeah.
so I was talking with a good friend of mine, and he had taken his business. Um, I started work with them. They were around like 700K, smaller business,
Okay.
but he had then grown to 3 million, and
Nice.
he was great at sales. And he built a little sales team. He got some other people going, but he loved sales. They were
Yeah.
then now at 10 million, and the brakes were going on. He personally was closing about 4 million a year. He
Wow.
loved the hit, and he
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
great at sales.
Yeah.
Right? This is professional services like yours. He was
Yeah.
closing serious deals, and he had to let go, and he couldn't imagine letting go of it.
Right.
I I don't think you have to let go of sales as the business owner until you're well above 3 million. But I think you should be adding some sales capacity now.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
um,
And then that's the whole other conversation. Is okay, where do I go to get a salesperson? Like,
yeah, now let's
that's
start talking. Let's talk about this hiring bit.
sure.
So first is, am I willing to let go? Second is, then what are those steps
Yeah.
to begin to let go? Where I start saying, okay, I could trust this over. I've gotten clear enough about a process, not just because Jason Smith is awesome, but because my process is starting to work.
Hmm.
Then I can bring somebody in. Okay. They can bring someone
Right.
into a process easier. Same with sales. If the sales are all done because you're just beating the bushes and you've got great relationships, your first person is going to be a failure probably.
Right.
But
Yeah.
if your sales are working because you've got lead flow now,
Hmm.
and you walk them through a process and you don't drop them because you're keeping them in a pipeline, you've got certain follow-up routines, and you've got that humming, your first sales hires are probably going to have a much greater chance of success.
Yeah.
Most at this size burn through a bunch of salespeople who don't make them a dime. The only
Mm.
thing they close are the stuff the owner handed to them on a tee that there
Right.
was just an order taking. And so I
Right.
see that so many times. We don't want that.
Right.
So before you get there, start saying, do I have a place for leads? Or do I have to hire a unicorn, which is hard and expensive, who
Yes.
can build their own leads, who can work their own
Right.
networks, who, whatever. Not as likely. So let's get a process for what it looks like to succeed. So the journey from 1 million to 3, 4, 5 million, that journey consists of the right people and the right processes aligned with your vision.
Right.
Those are the three key things. So let's say, pretend you built your process out and you're going to hire your sales people to come in. If
Mm-hmm.
you can build your budget enough to do this at the beginning, don't think a full year's salary, just think 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
If they can be delivering within 3 months' time in their work, they're paying for themselves. If you can build it, hire two, not one.
Okay. Okay.
And the reason is you don't know if the process is failing or the person.
Ah, yes.
And
Yes.
salespeople will also compete with each other.
Yes. This is
And
true.
so you'll see one rise or
Yeah.
both rise, which is awesome. I'm
Yeah.
glad, like, I'll keep paying for two people if they're both
Right.
producing, right? And so,
Yeah.
so think hire two as just a general strategy once you've got a process together for sales. Now let's find the right people. Okay, so let's talk about this vision. We can't hire a right person until we know where we're going and who we are. The first thing you shared was, man, I look at their experience, I see their stuff, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, I bring them in. And I get it, meaning I've lived it.
Yeah.
And it hurts worse than saying no
Right.
right there the first time. And
Yeah.
then say yes powerfully to someone who belongs. So here's some practical ways to start saying who belongs here. And I want you to write it down in two separate categories. You first need to find someone who fits your vision. They're all in on the purpose. They love the values. They just embrace the same way you make decisions, they make decisions. They they've got things about them that they were just raised with that matter deeply.
Right.
Now, these people don't have to look or act like you, anything in so many different ways, but they have to value those core principles. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And one of yours is actually this like deeply care about the individuals. Because if you hired a
Yeah.
salesperson who didn't deeply care and was just about pushing the numbers, like I'll stick this, they're going to be selling people who your team doesn't serve well. They're going to be
Yeah.
handing
That's
stuff
true.
off in a way your team hates. They're
Right.
right. They're like a pariah, and things just start to come apart all around them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody likes that. So identify those 4, 5, 6 values that are very core to who you are. You found some of those values on the street in LA. There were times, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying, oh, cops do this. I'm saying we've all done this.
Yeah.
There were some times when you did an action that you regretted so deeply, not because of how it turned out for everyone else, but because of going against some internal compass in you.
Sure.
You felt like you had to like take extra showers from it, right? You're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah.
That was when you went against one of those core values. So that's one. Okay. Then there's
Yeah.
other ones where you have a team member that you just love them. They're so good, and there's these qualities about them that you just so deeply admire, and you notice it's shared across a couple of them. You're like, look at that!
Mm-hmm.
Wow. More than likely, it's a value you too have deep within, and you see it just flourish in them. There's another one of those shared values. Okay, so there's going to be some of these, and here's another last signal. There's somebody who seemed on paper to be great. In fact, they could deliver on a lot of their job, but something was just always off,
Yeah.
right? It just
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
never clicked.
Quite
You
a few of
fired
those.
him. Yeah, you
Yeah.
fired him for one of these reasons that wasn't job performance necessarily, although
Right.
it probably
Right.
led to some poor performance at times. It was
Yeah.
something fundamental about them And the way they rubbed the team, and the whole team afterwards went, ah,
Yes. Oh
okay.
yeah. For sure.
Those qualities of those people, what they were missing, those, it's either the opposite of one of your values or whatever, right? But your value is right in that. Think about it, tear it apart. You're going to find probably some of those core values in there. We want to identify them. We want to define them our way, not Webster's dictionary way. Okay.
Sure.
We want to talk about what it looks like to live it and what it doesn't look like to live it. We just want the clarity around it. Now we want to interview to it. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
want
That's
to we
awesome.
want to know specifically. You'll see it come out. I'll have people in the interview share with me. I'm like, okay, tell me how this shows up in your life, right? And I'll tell them one of my core values. Like, we believe in people in their dreams. That's one of our core values.
That's cool. Yeah.
Talk about, at risk of hiring someone who you just think, well, they could make it. I mean, I've got it built into my DNA. So,
Yeah.
like, we believe in people in their dreams, though, matters to me.
Yeah.
And I need every team member like that, because that's how we interact with each other. That's how my customers have to be interacted with.
Right.
That's how they better treat their family, or it's not a real value. It's just
Mm-hmm.
a, a cloak, right? They're just putting a face
Right.
mask on.
Yeah.
They have to show up like that everywhere. If that's who they naturally are, in the hard times, they'll live true to it.
Yeah.
If it's not who they really are, in the hard times, they'll go back to their default true values, and everything comes
Right.
apart right when I need
Yeah.
them the most.
Yeah.
Okay, so identify, ask, have them share stories. While they're sharing stories, if they sound professional, get rid of them. If they start kind of like getting into it, they're really
Yeah.
sharing stories, they're excited about it. You're like, oh, something's happening here, right? They're clicking. Let's go to the
Yeah.
next value. I want to see it alive in them. And
Yeah. No, I like it.
they should be able to get examples, or they should be able to highlight other people who lived it and how much it mattered to them. They should be like, oh wow. And even saying by the end, really, you guys are really like this? Like, oh yeah, this is how we really are.
Oh
You
yeah.
shared a
Yeah.
story, they shared a story, and like, I found my home. People are looking for belonging. So
Yeah.
that's
For
one of the
sure.
things. So that's a piece of that cultural test. And you have to make sure that they fit the business, but they have to both be in line with what your purpose is. Let's say yours is like, to help the unknown geniuses be found online. Like your team
Yeah.
just loves it, right? They're like the
Yeah.
diamond in the rough. We highlight them. We shine a spotlight on the little known gems in the world,
Yeah.
and you celebrate each gem that's now known. Great. They have to love that idea. They have to
Right.
align with these things. But the third piece of this vision is the mission, and the
Yeah.
mission is no nonsense. They have to deliver, and they have to have the skills to fit the role. So if they're excited about the purpose and passionate about trying to help the mission happen, that's great. Now I need to know, for the role, here's how this role contributes to our mission, to that really hard thing we're doing, that we're highlighting. We're going to highlight 1,000 gems. We're going to spotlight 1,000 spotlight. That's yours.
Well, there you go.
We're going to spotlight
Yeah.
1,000 gems by the year 2027. Depending on your client makeup, what that looks like, or how you would measure your success. But then they have to have the skills. These are the skills we need in the role. You have to be able to deliver X, Y, and Z. Notice I didn't say you have to have this kind of background in education. You need to have these
Right.
portfolio pieces. You have to, sure,
Right.
but I want to know they can deliver
Yeah.
on the two or three metrics that say, if you match our culture and you're delivering these things, you have a place forever with us. I
Yeah.
just need you to deliver, because each person's role added up hits our goals for the year and for the
Mm-hmm.
mission for the 3-4 years out there.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone missing, it hurts.
Yeah.
So now I'm down can they deliver? And in your space, you have a real advantage because people are used to this freelance game.
Yeah.
Let's try before we buy. Let's get really clear. Let's give them projects. Let's see how they perform. Pay them for it, but
Yeah.
don't bring anyone in until you're like, yeah, you got it. You're seeing it. You're working
Yeah.
this. Um,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
so those would be pieces, and you can measure it. I would write out what a great fit looks like and a poor fit. I would, both for the company and for the role. I would measure those out for interviews that you go through. I would signal to them the things that are weird about us that would make someone uncomfortable if they're the wrong someone. and
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
excite someone who was the right somebody,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I
So
love it. That's
anyway, those
awesome.
may be helpful as you're looking at your hiring. Sorry,
Yeah.
I kind of wandered too much. If you
No.
solved these problems of being able to move on, go to that next role, right?
Yep.
Take the next step so your team could fully own where they're at and be good at hiring, right? So you don't have the turnover, because in
Yeah,
professional services, that's our margins. Turnover means margins gone, right?
this is
And
true.
so,
Yeah,
so if you could solve those, what would it mean for your business in the next year and a half?
it'd be huge. It'd be
Yeah,
exponential growth. That's what it would be, honestly.
yeah. I mean, in a profit sense, you're probably talking about 500,000,
Yeah,
right? That's if you're at 2 million today. I mean, it's
right.
that kind of growth difference to have that turnover down and to work on the things you need to work on, really let your team rise and do their job. Uh,
Yeah,
Huge value in there, more value than just adding that one more client, is
yeah,
figuring this out so every new client that gets added in is cared for well and we can
yeah,
keep
for
growing.
sure. No, I love it. Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks for the insight. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm just delighted to be on the call, and thank you for taking the time to share what you did with the community. I think in the end, these other things we just talked about are nice tactics, but without that deep care,
Hmm.
why are we building this?
It's true. Yeah.
And without that deep care, everyone's just going to like clock in, clock out. I'm going to work as hard as I need to get paid.
Yep.
But when
Yep.
they're deeply cared for, you see 3x kinds of growth in people and their
Hmm.
productivity, because they want to put their all in. They want to care for
Yeah.
the people who care for them. So you shared quite a nugget there. I love that. And then the action oriented nature, also a key. Thank you, Jace, for being on the show. If somebody wants amazing social work, like you're ready to really turn on the power of social to drive leads to your business, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can shoot me an email, jason at spotlightsocialllc.com, or you can go to our website, spotlightsocialadvertising.com, and reach out to us.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jason. Thanks again.
Yeah.
That wraps up this episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. We hope you listeners have enjoyed it. And if there were some things or nuggets you found, please like, share, get it to other seven figure business owners so they too can benefit from what Jason shared with us. Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, keep learning, and especially keep caring.